Hi, this is Pat Iyer with Legal Nurse Business, and I'm delighted to bring to you John Anthony Bochnowicz. John and I have connected as a person with special expertise in working with men and women who are caught up in the issue of and the concern and problem of domestic violence. John is going to be one of the speakers at our domestic violence conference, June 9th and 10th, 2022. And we invited him into the program because there's often a lot of question of, all right, domestic violence is here. How do we reduce it, eliminate it, unlearn that behavior? John, welcome to this conversation.
Thank you, Pat. Glad to be here.
You know, one of the things that the legal system does, and we know as legal nurse consultants, this is true, that we arrest the perpetrator and put him in jail. Tell me from your perspective as somebody who is a counselor, why is that a dead end or ineffective solution to the problem?
Well, I think that, let me just say that sometimes people have done such horrific things that that's what they need, to get their attention, that it's not okay. But I think some of the problems is that as a society, we don't intervene to help the potential perpetrator soon enough, because the only recourse we have is to put them in jail. So we almost have to wait until they really do something that we can nail them for. But then the victim ends up having to put up with some things, and it could be dangerous. The other problem with just putting them in jail is that oftentimes that couple wants to stay together. And if, as a society, we don't help that abusive person to understand what are the dominoes that are falling before their act of violence that are going on for them, so they can see what's really at the root of their violence and what they can do to alleviate that, then we're kind of setting them up that every time they get in a particular situation that they're going to resort to something that they taught themselves as a young child, because acting out and hitting is something that 2-year-olds learn how to do as a way of trying to cope with their fear of losing something that they have or not getting something that they desire. And if we don't help a person to understand what's going on for them before the violence, then we're not really helping them to be successful. And the thing that they really need help with is to be able to identify that when they're angry, what they're really feeling is fear. And it's the fear of losing something that they have, or the fear of not getting something they desire. It doesn't have anything to do necessarily with physical safety fear for the perpetrator. So I think that when we can learn how to help that person as a society, to help that person to be able to identify those fears, and then what I found to be helpful is to give them the skill of being able how to give love to themselves in the form of respect, understanding, acceptance, caring, appreciation, and trust. When they give that love to themselves, then they don't have to resort and turn their fear to anger. Because what people are really trying to do that I've worked with, and I've been doing this for 40 years, is they're trying to make somebody else give them that respect, understanding, acceptance, caring, appreciation, and trust. That's why they're being abusive to them or violent, because I want you to respect me, or I want you to understand, accept what I'm going through, or care, appreciate, or trust what I'm going through. But it doesn't help them. So that's one reason, or maybe a long reason, why just putting them in jail isn't really enough.
Well, you brought up something that I find intriguing, John, because it seems from the logical part of my brain, which is pretty dominant, that if I want you to love and respect and trust me, the answer is not to punch you or break your bones or bruise you or burn you or do any of the violent things. So can you tell us a little bit more about where does that thought process come from and how do you break it? Because it just as a logical being, it's creating trouble in my brain understanding that.
Well, I think that when it comes, when you look at it, logic isn't something that a violent person is using.
True.
They're reacting to emotional pain that oftentimes they aren't even aware that they have, because they're so used to trying not to pay attention to their feelings. And they're so used to trying to control things outside of themselves that they don't even realize that there are things going on internally that they aren't being aware of consciously. Now, their body, their being is aware of what's going on, but that's why it's reacting the way it is, because it's reacting from that amygdala part of the brain that, when we, it's important, when we're really in a life-threatening situation, to be able to fight, flight, or freeze. But it doesn't allow us to use the thinking part of the brain. So we can come up with a creative way of understanding things. And I think that while we all want love in our life, very few of us know how to give love to themselves. We can say, yeah, I love myself, or yeah, I buy this and I do that and I have fun. But they don't know how to respect themselves or to respect others. They don't know how to understand themselves or understand others, or to accept or care, appreciate, or trust themselves, let alone to be able to give it to others. So, one of the things that I'll be going over in the talk is there's a diagram that I'll show that what happens is that when we have emotional pain, we are trying to use that anger as a way of trying to make somebody else give that to us. And we don't even realize that that's what we're doing. We're just doing it because I want you to do what I want you to do. And when you're doing that, see, then you're going to be giving me respect and understanding and acceptance, caring, appreciation, and trust. But what we don't see is that at that same time, I'm not giving myself any of that either. So when a person learns how to give it to themselves, then they don't have to control that other person to get it, and it's like being in a dark room and wanting somebody else to turn the light on. And they say, no, I don't want to, or they don't know how, or whatever. And then we get into a fight as I try to make them turn the light on, when I can just as easily turn the light on myself. But we don't realize that we can give that love to ourselves. And
Well,
so when
I can
Go ahead.
tell we're going to have a lot to speak about at the conference. The link for the conference is lnc.tips/DV. And that is a domestic violence conference for legal nurse consultants, June 9th and 10th. John Anthony is one of our speakers and will be sharing his perspective as a person who works with individuals who are struggling with this need to come up with better solutions for violence. Please sign up for the conference and we'll see you there.